Welcome to Sidetracked with your hosts, Scott Culbertson and Bo Hotchkiss of the band Blue Vino. Please be calm and tear it down.
Well, welcome to the show. What's going on, man?
Oh, what's going on? Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Cyrus and everybody else who's offered up help for my AC. I appreciate that.
Right.
Bo did that of his own accord. I didn't ask him to do that, and I would never have done that myself.
Yeah, we all know. You're too proud, blah, blah, blah.
And
although I'm telling you, dude, you got to stop helping people.
To the guy who told me to get a job,
do plumbing and
yeah,
shit.
he couldn't walk a block in my moccasins, so I didn't respond.
Well, the problem is you already do shit. It's just you don't ask for money because you're too fucking nice.
Well,
yeah, I'll fucking install a bathroom
and the
for you.
people I help like that are usually they're the ones that are down and out, dude. They don't. The reason they came and found me is because they need help.
Right.
You know, so it's hard to turn to people like that for help because they're the struggle's real, dude.
Right. Well, and I've lived out in Vegas, so I know what it's like. It's fucking hard. But hey, let's get to the crux of the matter.
And everybody, don't worry about it. I'm from here, and this is not the first year I have been without AC for a little while. So I know how to survive.
Just so happens it's at the beginning of summer. That kind of sucks. But hey, we got a special episode tonight.
At least it's not in the middle of July.
We're interviewing Pepper Snyder, who's let's just bring her on. Pepper, if you're there, just go ahead and press 1. I think I see you on the board there. If you're ready to speak, but we can hold off if you're not. Okay, there she goes. Pepper.
Hi.
You're live.
Hi, sweetheart.
So first thing I'm going to say, introduce yourself and the office you're running for, and maybe some more information about who can or can't vote for you, that type of thing.
I'm Pepper Snyder. I'm running for the 3rd Congressional District in Indiana. It is it's the Fort Wayne area and the surrounding counties. As for who can and can't vote for me, I don't think anyone cannot vote for me. I would say everyone can vote for me, and I hope everyone does.
Well, I mean, everyone in Indiana, or is it more local than that?
Just the 3rd Congressional District.
Okay, there you go. So
you just run for your district. Yeah.
Yeah,
gotcha.
That's correct.
All right. Okay. How about local issues, or what basically made you think that's it? I'm running. I gotta take care of business.
Well, I'm running for the Congress of the United States. The issues that I want to focus on are foreign policy. I want to focus on legalizing medical cannabis. I want to focus on auditing the Fed. I want to focus on tax reform. and mostly getting government out of personal lives and just limiting them overall.
Nice. Well, that's a pretty good start. Let's see. Should we dissect each one of those a little bit at a time?
Go ahead.
Let's see. Where to start? Well, probably all of our fans would be interested in legalization of marijuana. I would actually ask if you watch the.
You specifically said medical. Are you open to just open legalization?
Yes, I am. I would start with medical cannabis because I think that's more appealing to the people in general. I don't know that the people in general are open to legalizing marijuana on a national basis. I do think that you are seeing a lot more of that in the States, and I want to see that more. If it ever came up in front of me in Congress, I would definitely vote for it.
Right.
Okay.
And I agree with you that power does belong to the state, and the federal government has no right in intervening in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because look what California went through, when they first legalized it and those shops opened and everything, and it got to the point where they just warned them. They would go down there and tell them, hey, you need to close up and clean up because the feds are coming.
Right.
And they just leave the bare minimum in the shop, and that's all the feds would get. And it was just to fuel, so they'd get free weed for their Bohemian Grove parties and stuff, I guess. I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
Fucking pay for it like everybody else does,
Right. And I do think that you will see a lot more states being open up to that because of the revenue that it's bringing in. We've seen it in Colorado, and all the bad things that they said would happen didn't happen. But all the good things that the other side said would happen, is happening. And I think that you are seeing it moving in that direction. At a national level, I don't think it's there yet. But I do think that people would be definitely open to medical cannabis, especially when they hear stories about how it is helping people who are ill, people who have seizures, people who are in pain. I think Senator Tom Davis out of South Carolina, if I don't know if you're on Facebook or not, but he was he had a bill in South Carolina where he was kind of putting on the stage just these different issues of different people that medical marijuana or medical cannabis has been helping. And unfortunately that bill fell, but he did get parts of it through, from what I understand.
Yeah, it failed here in Ohio as well, which left a lot of people here baffled, to which my reply was simply something along it's a two-part reply. Really, the majority of people don't vote. That's paramount to it. Number two, it's hard to get a pot smoker to leave the house. It really is. I think most of that argument could come down to a pot smoker could just say something like, I have never said, let's leave the house, and you know what, I could stop right there. I've never said
let's vote to smoke pot instead of smoking pot. Is that what you said?
We could stay here and smoke more pot.
We could stay here
and
just smoke pot, or we could go vote for it. No, I'll just stay here and smoke it.
And I think it's more than just them. You saw the same situation with the Ron Paul revolution. He had massive crowds that put Bernie Sanders to shame. He had 10,000 people in one stadium at one point, but they didn't show up to vote. And I think that that's a big issue with the youth, and I don't understand how to get them on fire. Maybe Bernie Sanders is, I don't know. But they didn't show up to vote for Ron Paul.
Well,
they were there at his stadiums. They were there at his
let's hope
events.
Let's hope everybody shows up to vote for you, Pepper.
Right.
I mean, every little bit counts, And like we were talking about Ron Paul the other day, and at least he, I think he didn't think he was going to get the nomination. But I think he wanted that FaceTime with the camera just so he could get those messages across.
The message out, and he
did.
And it did start a revolution, and people are waking up. I think it's years away from getting to the point where we need it to be, but people are definitely questioning things that they need to question.
Right. Yeah. Well, speaking of elections, and this is a big question. that if I could ask every single person who's running for office this question and get an honest answer, I would love to do that. I was really hoping that we could have gotten McAfee on. There's still a chance that he might come on, but it's up in the air at the moment. He seems to be a pretty busy guy. But one of the questions we were going to ask him was, how do we get you elected when it's known that, voting machines and really elections in general are riggable? And my main example that I wanted to give, I think it comes out of Ohio, is a guy by the name of Clint Curtis. I don't know if you've heard the name, but he was a programmer who testified that he developed a bootloader-style hack, which, as demonstrated by students from Princeton University, could be loaded into a voting machine in about a minute and then altered the results from the machine. And the only way to know anything had happened was if you did a paper ballot alongside the machines, which nobody does that. And there's only 2 corporations that are allowed to count votes in the United States, and no one is allowed to look at their software. Nobody. So I think the real problem when we were talking about Ron Paul wasn't that people didn't show up. I honestly believe, now I could be wrong, but I believe that the problem was rigged. I think the whole thing, I don't think the GOP wanted him, and I think they did everything in their power, which was easy. If you can just tell the machines what to do.
The last presidential election, Gary Johnson was supposed to be on the ballot, and he wasn't. He was not even on the ballot. There was no button to push in Nevada for Governor Gary Johnson.
In Nevada. I didn't know that. We were able to vote for him in Indiana. I think that's a lot. I think that this feeling that the system is definitely rigged. I think everyone knows that. Even Republicans and even Democrats, not politicians, but people who generally vote Republican and generally vote Democrat, tend to know that the system is messed up. Whether they want to change that system because right now it benefits them. But I think that with what's going on with Donald Trump and with Bernie Sanders, I think that you were seeing a lot of people start to say, wait a minute, my voice is not being heard, even though it's obvious who the more popular person is. And why is my voice not being heard? I mean, you've already had this discussion over whether or not Donald Trump will even be allowed to be the nominee when he obviously got the nomination. Whether or not I agree
right,
with
and that makes you just like
in any way, shape, or form. But it's obvious. They're blatant about it. They're telling you.
I mean, I can understand the liberal stupidity but in the Republican Party, to actually, have somebody get the nomination and then the party itself go, nah, that's sinister. And if those people don't see it, then wow.
And they called Ron Paul people crazy back in 2012 because we were pointing out the very thing that's happening right now, that, this is rigged. They set this up to go against people who are in there to change things. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with Donald Trump. Hate him or love him, and I don't like him at all. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
We're kind of with you there. He's one of those people that, as I've said on the show probably every time we've talked about him, he's very obviously the type of guy who I can see the good that he could do, maybe. But I could also see him becoming one of the most tyrannical people you've ever seen in your life, just because of how he acts.
That's the way I lean. I see him. I could see him sitting
at the desk, just like flipping that the rocker cover over the switch that launches everything. I just sitting there flipping that rocker cover. It's a little safety cover that covers the switch that launches everything, and he's just flipping that safety cover back and forth,
flipping it off and flipping it on and off.
Yeah. Just flipping it open and closed, open and closed. Yeah, I'm not hitting the button. I'm just, I could if I want to.
Anyway, speaking of buttons, you mentioned foreign policy. What are your views about what's going on with foreign policy right now?
Well, I think that we have an overreaching foreign policy, obviously. It's done nothing but get us into perpetual war and insane spending. And I am a Ron Paul foreign policy person, and I would definitely support anything that would lessen our spending habits and our involvement in the affairs of other countries. I would never send my kids to die for another country. And so I, as a congressman, could never send anyone else's kids to die for another country either.
I don't think you could get a better viewpoint than that. Other than
right, and that's all we seem to do anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody seemed comfortable with being the world's police force.
Right.
And
there's nothing wrong.
That doesn't play well. People don't
country.
like it when you just sit there and poke into their day-to-day lives. They don't.
There's nothing wrong with seeing a problem in another country and saying, I have a problem with this and I want to help. There's nothing wrong with you personally going and helping. But there is something wrong with you personally telling the United States government, send her kids to do this for me.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. There's this big disconnect, and this is what I don't understand about liberals who, they claim to be, we're the humanitarians. We're the ones that care. We're the,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're the empathetic people, and you guys are all heartless. Yet, they're the ones that are quick to go, like, if they see a gun owner get killed, they're like, they have orgasms over it. They love it. I mean, it's sickening.
Yeah.
It's like, I thought you were the empathetic people. They're like, yeah, but he owned a gun. He deserved it. You're disgusting. And they're okay with stuff like that, like sending kids to war.
You see, I think you see it mostly on social media, just this disconnect with empathy. When you see, like the kid who fell in the gorilla thing at the zoo, it turned into a massive war against the parents, and even the zoo because they shot the animal that was dragging this child around by its leg, and I think that you see people demanding someone be shot, and you see it on both sides of the aisle where there's this lack of empathy now.
Yeah, that was pretty entertaining to see the tweets go all over the place. I mean, if you had like a poll going at who was in favor during that whole incident, like did you side with the parents, the gorilla?
Or the gorilla, right?
Well, yeah, no. Did you side with the parents, the gorilla, the zookeepers, or cows? Cows was one of them. Cows was one of them. And reason being, get this, they brought up like, I don't understand why people are so. They bitch about a gorilla dying, but 20,000 cows every fucking year die. And I'm like, I had to reply to that one.
That's the sheer stupidity of a lot of that stuff because, and it's opinions given out by people like, I'm the authority on parenting. Well, do you have a child?
Right.
No, but I know exactly how a parent should act. No, you don't. You're not a father until you've at least made it to 16, probably 17.
Right. I think everyone's probably an authority on parenting until they actually have kids and realize they don't know what the hell they're doing.
I don't think you're a father until your kid takes a swipe at you.
I think you become a parent
there you have
when
it, folks. You've got to go through all that years, those crying, the tears, and blah blah blah. And
I think you're a parent.
My point is the opinions that come from these people are from a perspective that they know nothing about.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just
the cow person. I had to reply to them. I replied with population numbers. Basically, here's why no one cares about 20,000 cows, because there's literally like 1 billion of them. Here's how many gorillas there are. They're like in triple digits. So
right.
Look, I'm not on the side of like the gorilla should have lived. Fuck the little kid. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I get the outrage. I get it. I don't agree with it, but I understand. Like, hey, gorillas are rare. Be a little more careful. It's like, well, it's a gorilla.
As far as that goes, honestly, no one thought about the imprisonment of the gorilla being wrong. So
exactly.
Gorilla should have never been there in the first place. So
if you ever go to a zoo, it's one of the saddest experiences as an adult. As a kid, it's fun because you don't get it. But as an adult, it's really kind of sad.
You realize
you see the gorillas and you're like, oh, because their faces have so much expression because they're primates, and so they show a lot of emotion in their face, and you could tell just that this is wrong. This is just, it's kind of sad.
Right.
Now, I understand like the pandas because they're endangered and they're trying to breed them and not make them go extinct.
Right.
there's things like that. I understand. Same with the rhinos. Like, there's a certain species. I think there's like one left, and they're like, well,
you want to time travel so you can save the dodo?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll taste better than chicken.
Why don't we just clone the dodo? I don't know why we would save the dodo unless they're delicious.
Okay, we
or
have
something.
gotten way sidetracked, and we have a congressional candidate on.
Hey, that's the name of the show. Let's get back to some other stuff. Maybe some other interesting questions that are hard to field. Let's see here. How do you feel about mass surveillance?
I'm opposed to that, and I would do everything in my power to get government out of your life without a warrant.
Now, what about Snowden? What do you think of him?
I would pardon Snowden.
You'd pardon him, is what you said?
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Straight up.
See, we're kind of on the fence about Snowden. Scott and I, we're a little like, we're very suspicious.
I think he still works for us.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I think he still works for us. I think he's still on the payroll.
You think he still works for us? I don't think he works for us. I think that he exposed some things. I don't think it put a threat to the country. And I don't think that it falls under espionage. I think he exposed things that the government was doing to its own citizens, and I think that was necessary for him to do.
Now, would you say the same about Chelsea Manning?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't understand people who are against those two. What's that?
I don't understand. I don't know what did Manning do?
Well, he exposed the whole. He sent to WikiLeaks that video of the helicopter, the attack helicopter that was like mowing down a family because they thought maybe a terrorist was in this minivan, and instead they killed like children and women, and it was and they did the part that got everybody that was heart-wrenching was the fact that you could listen to the pilots, and they were completely apathetic to the whole ordeal. And they were just like, look, hey, what are you doing? You shouldn't be around terrorists, or something along those lines. It was that ridiculous sounding, listening to them justify, while they're murdering children, they're justifying it. And so it was
when it's your job to murder people, you make up stories in your head to make yourself feel better, dude. You have to, otherwise you'll go insane and commit suicide.
And we wonder why the suicide rate is
right, and I think that we've reached that part where we are sending soldiers to do things that are not for the defense of our nation, and
that we wouldn't do ourselves.
That we wouldn't do ourselves. And I think that when you put soldiers in that position, then they are faced with choices that it's hard to live with, and it's hard to deal with. And I am a wife of a former soldier. I am a wife, I'm a sister of my brother who did several tours in Afghanistan and Kuwait and Djibouti.
Right.
And he came back with some problems.
It's hardest on them.
It is.
Oh.
And
hey, I don't mean to interrupt. We will continue what you're saying. We have 6 minutes left of the live show. I know I have another caller on hold that apparently wants to talk to you. So I want to bring them on at least before we go into overtime so they can stay through Are you staying through the duration for the 15 minutes of overtime? Okay.
Yes, I can.
All right, we'll go ahead and bring them on. It should be Shin Duo. You are live, buddy.
Ms. Peggy Snyder, thank you for joining Bo and Scott on this special edition of Sidetracked. I really appreciate your time. Pepper Snyder.
Pepper Snyder.
What did I say?
I think you said Peggy.
I'm sorry about that. You're running for the 3rd Congressional District of Indiana, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I have a few questions for you about the Libertarian Party, which I'll go over a background of myself real quick.
Okay.
My name's Cameron, and I am a conservative, but I'm not Republican. I would align my views with Libertarian. So I wanted to ask you a few questions. I'm going to start with one. Do you feel that running as a Libertarian, it's tougher to get the votes of the people to bring you into office as opposed to running with the big two and aligning with their views And 2, how do you feel about the health of the Libertarian Party?
For the first point, the first question, I would say it is much harder because my opponent, my Republican opponent, raised over $1 million for the primary alone. And that's impossible for me. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to come close to that. And that was just for the primary alone. Now, I'm also facing
screw my AC. Send Pepper your money.
Right?
I'm also facing a Democrat who the Democrat Party thought they were electing someone else, and it turns out they elected someone by the same name who is actually a homeless person who is an alcoholic and living in a hotel and can't find a job.
Whoa.
Yes.
Maybe I missed exactly what you said. Could you say that again? That's unbelievable.
His name is Tommy Schrader. People thought they were voting for someone else. From what I understand, there's another Tommy Schrader who is a prominent Democrat in the area. And so it was assumed that people were voting for him, and they ended up voting for this guy who turned out to have he's a fun guy. He would be a guy I would like to hang out with, I guess. But he's not congressional material. Well, I guess he probably wouldn't do worse than what they're doing now. But
right. Yeah, I mean, let's face it. What do we expect our congressman to do other than
maybe he's that diamond in the rough?
Yeah.
But he did his interview out front of his hotel, drinking a beer and smoking a cigarette, and he said that he can't find a job. He doesn't have time because he doesn't have money. He spends all his money on alcohol and drinking and smoking, and he literally said that. So
if he doesn't have money, can I ask you? If he doesn't have money, can I ask you what was your out-of-pocket cost in order to get on the ballot?
0.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
All right, continue with your answer. I'm sorry.
And what happened? So basically, in the third party, in the third congressional district, there's basically, that Democrat who the Democrat Party has, from what I understand, separated themselves from. They can't remove him from the ballot. He's there. He's their candidate, but they're not voting for him. I think he endorsed Trump too. But the other guy, the Republican, he has a lot of money. He is established in the area. So it's basically a two-party race. It's basically me and him, and then there's this Democrat back there. And so that puts the Libertarian Party in a unique position in the 3rd District because we do have a shot. And we have a shot basically because the Democrats picked the horrible candidate who's not going to win a whole lot. As for the strength of the party, I would say that we are in excellent shape right now. I am excited about what's going to happen with the Libertarian Party coming up.
It seems to be growing massive groundswell.
We are growing by leaps and bounds. The Republican and the Democrat parties are shrinking by leaps and bounds. People are frustrated.
Would you say we can attribute a little bit of that to Trump? I think he's actually made some Republicans go, you know what, screw this. I want more liberty than whatever he's selling.
And definitely
the reason why.
Go ahead.
The reason why I ask about the strength of the Libertarian Party is the Libertarian Party held a presidential convention over last weekend that featured an embarrassment of a man showing up on stage and stripping down to his knickers, and it just did not look good. It seemed paid and bought for.
We had the crazy naked guy. The crazy naked dancing guy, and he was ejected from the convention, and the Republicans nominated their crazy guy, and so I think that's the difference between the Democrat Party, the Republican Party.
Excellent.
Opposed
right
to
there, folks, is what you call a rebuttal. That's what you call that. All right, we're going into overtime in 10 seconds here. The rest of the show will be
Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Pepper. I'm going to stick around.
Okay.
Great
I
job.
won't mute you, so if anything
I got a question for you, Shin. I got a question for
What's
you.
That?
You asked Pepper about what her out-of-pocket cost for putting yourself on the docket was. Did you ask her that as a personal interest? Are you thinking of running?
No, actually, I paid attention to an independent American Party candidate by the name of David Laurie Vanderbeek from Nevada. He was trying to run for election in 2012. Yeah, he's a great guy, great family man, great Christian, and it cost him something like $500 out of pocket for each election in the state of Nevada. So I just want to throw that out there. Like, if a homeless man is in contention with Pepper here, then how can a homeless man come up with $500?
That's for sure.
What did you say, Scott?
Can't be any worse than putting your money in a slot machine.
Or giving Scott money for AC. You know, couldn't be worse than giving Scott money for AC.
I agree with that. I mean, everybody should chip in and help out Scott for AC. Sorry, Pepper.
Okay, well, now
that
since we're in overtime, it's been a tradition on this show that we act like no one is going to hear the rest of the show, so we get a little more ridiculous, even though we know all of this. Well, it started because we didn't know it all went to podcast. Then when we found out the whole show went to podcast, we were like, oh, everybody hears this crazy shit. Okay.
Awkward.
So we've just continued it because it's I guess, a tradition that we do. But, okay, so you mentioned right before the show that your kid watched some YouTube, I don't know what, and maybe he's now a 9/11 truther, and you said that you're not a 9/11 truther. Can you expand upon both paradigms?
Well, my son, first of all, on YouTube he likes to watch Minecraft cheat videos. I don't know if you're familiar with these.
Pepper,
but,
this is all kids. That's every kid in the universe right now. It's insane, isn't it?
Yes.
It's
Minecraft
pretty sad. The Let's Plays.
Over a life.
Oh, I hate them. Yeah,
and,
go ahead.
So he will watch the Minecraft cheat videos, and somehow he came upon some conspiracy videos over a number of different conspiracies, one of them being the 9/11 truther thing. And I was in the room with him before anyone accuses me of not monitoring my children on the computer. But
I mean, obviously
I was in the room with him, and I overheard him. I overheard the video briefly, and I said, "What are you watching?" And he said, "Did you know that this building blew up that a plane did not even fly into? Did you hear about this?"
Building 7. Yes, Building 7. Everybody knows Building 7. No, actually, everybody doesn't know Building 7.
So, I am not a 9/11 truther. And so we did have a back and forth about things that are on the Internet, things that just because you hear it on the Internet, it's not necessarily true. But he's 11. He's beginning to question things, I guess, and so I try to get my kids a room. Mm-hmm.
As a parent to another parent, out of curiosity, what was your approach at his questioning of the official story?
I applaud him for questioning anything, but I don't. I kind of veered away from. I focused on the Internet is not the best place. YouTube is not the best place to find facts.
Honestly, I don't know that there is the best place to find facts.
And that's true. And
I mean, it's arguable, at least. Go ahead.
I feel it's up for self-discernment.
I'm sorry.
You got to go digging for yourself for the facts anymore.
Well, the whole 9/11 thing. I mean, for me, it always boiled down to one. We all lived through it. And we could probably remember what we were doing at the time that we learned about it, and what we watched during all of the goings on. And I remember a lot of things that happened live that I questioned at the time, because the live things back then, YouTube wasn't huge, so people weren't recording everything that they saw all the time, especially the news. So I can't seem to find a lot of that stuff.
And now you've seen videos that have come out that were not released at that point from people who were video recording it. I know there was one that came out from a girl in an apartment that video recorded it, and it wasn't released. She didn't put it out on the internet until recently. And but I do see that with things like conspiracy theories, I'm careful about that because you don't know what to believe anymore, especially on YouTube.
Well, you know what I use, Pepper, and you can use this to yourself. Or any of the listeners. It's a really good method. I call it the shelf method. What I mean by that is when I hear a piece of information that I think is, that's interesting, this could be useful. I don't know if it's even true at all, but it sounds like it could be useful to remember. In my brain, I put it on a shelf, and that shelf is labeled like stuff I have no clue if it's true. And I just save it for later until sometimes something pops up that corroborates it or, et cetera. And
right.
It's a good method for information, in my opinion, because you don't have to believe it.
I think that,
which I'm a firm believer that beliefs don't matter.
Even if you don't buy into the 9/11 truth or business stories, conspiracy theories, whatever you want to call them, I think there is some factual information out there, especially from even congressional candidates or congresswomen, senators, about the 28 pages, the redacted 28 pages that many people are trying to get released, Justin Amash being one of them. And I think that
why was it redacted in the first place? If it was an investigation into the truth and all that, and it was supposed to come to light, and
before it's even released, they redact
before the American people as an explanation, why redact all that?
Right, and I think that are all important questions that are being asked now, and I would be interested to see those 28 pages, and I would definitely be interested in making sure that the United States citizens see those 28 pages. So
it sounds like you're pro-investigation. If someone brought to the table, we need to reinvestigate because we think this was not done.
I think I know exactly what's on those 28 pages.
And I think
28 pages of Bush did 9/11 and jet fuel can't melt steel beams.
Oh, wait, you forgot one
question
thing.
And the plane that crashed in Pennsylvania was supposed to make Building 7 look real.
and the at the very bottom, an engineer that they consulted with is quoted, and it says, "Why didn't they just make the buildings out of passports?" And that's it, and it's over. And that's the whole thing.
That one's pretty funny. Peggy, or Pepper.
I think there's definitely some information on there, and I've heard congressmen say that the American people would be shocked at the information that they have not been told.
See, and they get to see it, and we don't get to see it. This is bullshit.
Right. And there's theories on what's on there. Some people say it was Saudi Arabia and there's some pretty good information on that media, credited media outlets have been able to piece together in regards to the Saudi Arabia link with the prince or whoever that was in Florida that was involved in funding these guys. And
right.
I think
a couple of our media outlets reviewed what happened that day, and they saw like the BBC having like updated reports as fast as they were getting them, and they're like, well, how come the BBC is getting updated reports from the Pentagon?
Right.
And so, and then they're looking back and they're like, these things were reported before we even got the message.
Right.
How did that happen? We're being thrown under a bus here, and they played cleanup as best they could without, actually revealing the truth that jet fuel can't melt steel beams.
Scott, can you hold on? Because Shin's been trying to ask a question for the past, 4
go ahead, Shin.
Pepper, I'm sorry to shift gears here, but I wanted to get your opinion on the bare basics of the United States Constitution and how you would execute your office accordingly to the written law of the land of the United States as it was in a bare bones environment.
How I would execute my office is I would follow the lead of Ron Paul. and even Gary Johnson while he was governor of New Mexico. And I would ask myself before I voted on anything, what is government's role in this? Does government have a role in this? And that's something that I would focus on with everything, from foreign policy, from monetary policy, from everything. And I think that that's important for congressmen, senators. I think that's important for all of them to start doing. What is government's role in this? Do I want government's role in this aspect of my life? If not, then how can I ask for government to be enrolled in this aspect of everyone else's life? And I think that that's an important question that I would ask before I voted on anything.
Excellent. So
with the monetary
you're basically
policy,
saying,
with the monetary,
hang on, you're basically saying you would be like the new Dr. No, right?
I would aspire to be the new Dr. No.
With
right,
monetary policy, how do you feel about
my name is Pepper, so I can be a doctor.
Right.
Nice.
Holy shit.
With monetary policy, what kind of tactics would you deal with in order to write legislation in order to take care of the fractional reserve banking system that we have here in America today, including the Federal Reserve?
Well, I would do everything in my power to first audit the Federal Reserve and eventually end it.
Nice. Basically,
would you pay off our debt with quarters?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Nice.
How we would pay off our debt? Because
our debt to who? David Rockefeller? Fuck him.
No, the Federal Reserve System. Because we can actually.
He's had his 6 hearts, Shin. He's had his 6 hearts. Our debt is paid to him.
For $18 billion worth of quarters, of quarter dollar cents, which isn't issued by the Federal Reserve, we can pay off our national debt. How do you feel about issuing or working toward legislation of issuing a actual monetary policy that doesn't involve borrowing from the Federal Reserve?
Well, I would definitely be supportive of that. I would, like Dr. Paul says, I would very much push towards getting rid of the income tax altogether. Until then, I would focus on a consumption tax to kind of get us off the Federal Reserve, monetary policy, and that's what I would focus on at this point.
What's your thoughts on taxation as theft?
I agree with that. Taxation is theft. I think that the masses are not there yet. I think they will be there at some point. But I think that it is important to point out that we spend more than we bring in, and it's not possible to bring in enough that we need. And so we have to start looking at different things.
Right. Shin, did you have any more pertinent questions?
No, I wanted to thank Pepper Snyder, who is the Libertarian candidate for the 3rd Congressional District of Indiana. Anybody that's listening to this podcast, vote for Pepper Snyder, please, as a Libertarian candidate. Get her into office.
What district are you running in?
I just want 3rd.
What?
The 3rd Congressional District?
Yes.
Well, thank you for taking your time to. Thank you for taking your time to be on SIDETRACKED. It was a pleasure, and I'm just going to hang out, guys.
Yes, thank you very much, Pepper, for coming on the show. You were an excellent guest. If I was in Indiana, I would definitely vote for you. I will call all my friends in Indiana and find out what district they're in, and if they are, I'll tell them to vote for you.
Same here. I actually have relatives in Indiana, and I don't know if they're in the 3rd Congressional District, but if they are, I'm going to demand that they vote for you. Otherwise, I am disowning them.
If not, we have many other different Republicans or different Libertarians running for office in Indiana, one of them being Rex Bell for governor. So definitely tell your friends to vote for him.
Nice.
Pepper, do you have a Twitter account that we can all reach you and follow you at?
Yes, you can follow me at Wine and Liberty on Twitter, and I believe I'm just Pepper L. Snyder on Facebook.
Nice.
Can you repeat the Twitter account?
Wine and Liberty.
Which is
wine, like the vino?
Yes, English for vino. Mm-hmm. English for vino.
Okay. Thank you, Pepper.
Absolutely. Thank you.